Marketing and Communications Manager at the DITA Conversion Laboratory, and I will be your moderator today. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know we will allow time at the end of the webinar for questions and answers. So please write your questions in the chat area as they come to mind. If we don't have time to answer them all, we will make them available on our website. Next slide, please. For those of you who are not familiar with DCL, we convert and organize content to create electronic documents, populate databases, publish on the web, and basically get it ready for tomorrow's technology. Next slide, please. DCL services help you refine your document conversion strategy, identify document redundancy, extract metadata, and transform legacy and future documents for real needs, today and in the future. Next slide, please. We serve a broad client base. Next slide, please. Spanning all industries. Next slide, please. Today, we are thrilled to introduce Maxwell Hoffman, TechCom evangelist over at Adobe. Max is based in Portland, Oregon, where he conducts online webinars, creates instructive videos, and frequent educational blogs. He is a frequent featured conference speaker and regularly featured authored in several industry publications. Without further ado, welcome Max.
Thank you, Adam. I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. You'll be happy to know that I don't really have too many slides. I'm actually going to fly through them pretty quickly, and I'm hoping to make well over half of my presentation actual software sharing within Framemaker. That's my goal. So just to start out here, just so we can cover a little bit more about Framemaker. First of all, here's my agenda. I'm going to be covering what I call working with full Framemaker. Framemaker is actually a hybrid publishing solution. It could be used two completely different ways. You can actually use Framemaker kind of like traditional publishing, be almost like a combination of Microsoft Word / InDesign on steroids. It was developed and born as a high-end tech pubs solution. So even 25 years ago, people were producing documents that were 1,000 pages long. It has grown tremendously since then, so as you can see, we create what we call hardy, unstructured documents. Those are documents that are virtually unbreakable. However, it also comes with DITA 1.2 compliant docs out of the box, and you can also make the most of DITA even if you're an inexperienced user. Then in addition to that, at the very end, we will be working with Framemaker in regular traditional mode and then also XML mode. But we actually have a new product, which is a less expensive version of Framemaker that only works with XML. That's called Framemaker XML Author. And I'll be spending a few minutes at the end just showing you what's different about that product. It looks and feels and smells like Framemaker, but we have basically eliminated anything that has to do with design or page layout or etc. You basically work with templates created for you in Framemaker, and you can also publish through the DITA Open Toolkit. Moving on to the next one here, and I'm going to collapse down my panel. Just going to briefly touch on this ever so swiftly. The reason I'm showing this, I'm not going to do a blow-by-blow, year-by-year coverage of our history, but the reason I have this here for you is there's a lot of people who are still using older versions of the product. There's a sizable community out there still using Framemaker 7, way back to 2002, 2014. You might wonder, why would anybody use a product that's 11 years old? Well, the answer is that's just how good the code is. This product was so sturdy and so stable, there have been other products in the past that older versions have continued on because the basic architecture was so strong. Framemaker 7 does not have Unicode support, so anybody who has to go out to a non-Latin-based language has to do a lot of workarounds for creating PDF bookmarks and even getting into HTML, etc. Where the product really kind of came into its own was somewhere around Framemaker 10 or Framemaker 11. I could probably use the drawing tools, but basically if you go to the right-hand side, it'd be the second and third column from the right, Framemaker 10, Framemaker 11. And around that point, Adobe really beefed up the XML support and also a lot to do with the user interface as well. Now this matrix happens to be showing all of our TechCom products, including TechCom Suite, which combines Framemaker and RoboHelp, and 3 other products, Acrobat, Presenter, and Captivate. Today we're going to be sharing with you Framemaker 12, and you'll see that down at the very, if you go to the very lower right-hand corner, you can see the word New next to Framemaker XML Author, which we'll also take a look at. So part of the reason for this is you may occasionally see some postings about Framemaker that might complain about some limitations with XML or something, and if that ever happens, be sure to ask the person what version of Framemaker they're using, because they might be using 8, 7, 8, or 9. Somebody may be using a product from 6 years ago. And like anything, Framemaker has changed, as you would hope that it would. Okay, moving on along to the next slide. There we go. Let's start out with what is Framemaker. I'm not going to read this, but of course it's a template-based authoring tool. And as we mentioned, it can do both traditional and XML publishing. Now, a few years ago, actually for about 10 years, Adobe used a vocabulary where we would talk about regular Framemaker versus structured Framemaker. And that caused a lot of confusion, because several years ago there was something called structured Framemaker that wasn't quite XML or DITA. So I'm just going to call it XML publishing, which of course includes DITA as well. Who uses it? Really just about everybody. We don't need to read off all these names, but it can be used in a variety of capacities. One of the messages of today is that the product has been redesigned. Just a moment. Excuse me, the product has been redesigned so it's very easy to customize workspaces, and a lot of the complexity of XML is already hidden from you unless you want to turn it on, but you actually have the ability to further streamline or customize the workspace to basically make XML non-threatening. If you have somebody who's going to use the product temporarily, or you have somebody who's new to XML and they just need to start producing results within the first day rather than 6 weeks later. And that's one of the joys of the product. What does it do? All of these things. All of these things are, this looks like it's all print-oriented, but things like policies and procedures, product manuals and reference manuals, as we soon see, may not be in paper and PDF. They may be on mobile devices, on smartphones, on tablets. And very new, as of about a year ago, in January 2014, a little over a year ago, we released Framemaker 12, which now gives you the ability to publish to online formats as well as to print. And that's a new idea to a lot of people regarding our product. So here's the publish to multiple devices, and just running off the top, PDF, which we've gone to for years. As you'll see in a very brief demonstration, Framemaker is extremely potent with PDF. It's not just pretty paper that looks like a book from the library, but there can be intelligent graphics and video. Graphics that you can actually manipulate. And here are the 5 popular formats that you can publish to straight out of the box. Now, one thing that I really want to emphasize, when you see me doing this portion of the demo, this is all out of the box, no customization. I did not use any scripts. I didn't create a macro. I didn't do anything extra to make this happen. The very bottom one that says Microsoft Help, it's actually a form of HTML that is skinned to look like what we call a chum file, a .chm. It's almost shocking. I'm sure Adam could confirm this, but it's almost shocking how many people out there are still required to deliver some of their documentation or help in what looks like 1990s Windows help files. They're still out there, and it'll be a while before that goes away, so you do have that as a solution as well. What else does the product do? Okay, this picture of the box chopped in two, it's one box, it's one product. But here we're just again emphasizing that if we were to use what we used to call structured Framemaker, that's simply where you're using the product in a mode that will easily handle XML and DITA. The one on the right-hand side, which I think there might still be a slight majority using it this way, is unstructured or traditional. But again, you have very sturdy format-driven templates, and there's very much an implied structure. This traditional structure that's built into a normal Framemaker document that we'll start out with can convert to XML and DITA very easily. And I'll actually be sharing some links to some previously recorded webinars that focus just on the process that you can go through in Framemaker itself for doing conversion. Of course, that's probably a service that Data Conversion Laboratories offers. There's a lot of easy ways to get those legacy documents into XML or DITA. Okay, and then we talk about the 2 ways to use it. Okay, if you're using the unstructured or the traditional method, this is just a screen capture that shows something kind of typical with flowcharts and stuff like that. And if you were to pause and look real carefully, you'll see over on the right-hand side paragraph catalogs, etc. And you don't see a XML element catalog, and you don't see a structure window to show the structure of the document. Using the other side of the document, however, this is just a simple screen capture where I have created a new DITA topic from scratch in Framemaker. And you'll see that you have a fairly we could almost call it traditional XML user interface. It looks a lot like some other XML editors where you've got your structure view optional. You don't have to display that, elements. And we have keyboard shortcuts that will allow you to transit through nearly all of that. So it works just fine. And by the way, you can also, as we'll show later, you can actually publish out via DITA Open Toolkit. Moving on along. So the first thing I'd like to do here is to do a very quick demo, and I'm going to set a timer on my other computer so I can really try hard to stick within my limits. So what I'm going to do here for a moment is I'm going to just go back here and share Framemaker. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and have Framemaker pretty much fill up the screen, most of it there at least anyway. Okay, and so let me go ahead and start my timer, and within about 7.5 minutes, with very little explanation, I'm going to give you a quick whirlwind demo of using Framemaker in the traditional way. So first of all, I'm just going to decide that I want to do File New. Now the first thing we're going to discover is that I could go ahead and make a blank file if I said portrait or whatever. But if I say Explore Standard Templates, this feature's been around for a long time. Those of you that know the older version of the product, these templates will look familiar to you. But as of our latest versions, we've added 12 new templates. And what's nice is these are actually real documents. And you can either create a template like this, which will go ahead and give you a blank document to type into, and you'll have nice paragraphs, and you'll actually have table styles created for you, etc. Or instead of doing all the work by hand, typing it all in, you can do this. You go File, New, Document, go ahead and to Export to Standard Templates. And this time I'm going to say Show Sample. Now, in the old days, in previous versions of Framemaker, this would have actually filled the text in with Latin text. And it was just kind of as a placeholder so you could kind of visualize what things would look like. If you look closely here, you'll see that this is actually in English. And this is all real. In fact, notice there's 3 cross-references right here on the first page. If I double-click on this, there's something called a cross-reference. We don't have time to go into that today, but cross-reference formats like this. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just replace it. Voila. A cross-reference format can actually give the entire sentence. You can do this with or without XML. Right now we're in that traditional format without XML. Framemaker has various types of paragraphs. There's an inline paragraph and a regular paragraph. And if we go further down the page, I'm going to move over to here. I happen to have a page here. Some of this text looks like it's underlined and looks a little weird. The reason for that is that the templates also include conditional text. And you can actually make text disappear by actually just picking categories and deciding to show and hide them. Now what I'd like to do is to go ahead, and I don't have time to do conditional text today, so I'm just going to go ahead and hide the indicators. I'm just going to tell them to go away. This is new since Framemaker 9, these pods down here, and we'll probably work with them a little bit later. They work in the XML structured mode as well. Now, one thing that will be a testament to the power of Framemaker, and this is something that you can do in either structure or non-structure where I am right now, Framemaker paragraph styles actually can have page layout associated with them. So using a keyboard shortcut to define my paragraph, if I hit N for note, because these all have little mnemonic indicators at the beginning, this is currently note caution. If I type ND for note danger, you'll see that will change into another style that looks like boxed red text. Let's go ahead and make it a different type of note. I'm going to go ahead and make it an NN for note. And notice that it automatically leaps out into the left-hand margin. Elements or paragraphs in Framemaker can actually have the page layout attribute of side head, dropped in automatically. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And the last thing I'm going to do to this paragraph is I'm going to go ahead and change it to a note tip. When I do this, you'll see that there's even the extraordinary ability to take a paragraph and say, go into the outer margin, paginate with the text, but also go to the bottom or the top of the column. Pretty amazing. I'm going to go back and make it what it used to be, just the note caution, and we're back to where we were. If I had time to show you, which I don't, looking here at these 3 buttons, I'm just going to mention that this template was created so that if we visit the reference page, we actually discover that there's a new feature in Framemaker called Object Styles, and you can actually apply styles to graphics, dark shadow, light shadow, etc. And I could actually go ahead and open. I'll go ahead and make one quick change. I think we've got time for that. Go to Graphics, go in here and quickly do the Object Style Designer. Cool thing. And then what I have to do is go ahead and get the name of the style that I want to change. In this case, I'm just going to change the color. I'm going to change it down to something like salmon. Just decide that I want to update everything, and then go ahead and close it. Now, let's go back to our body page and see what happened. voila, you'll notice that every one of those light shadows globally changed. This can also work for the positioning of anchored frames, etc. So you can really do some quite remarkable things. Now, the final thing I'd like to do, there's far more the product will do. Let's just take a quick look here at some graphics. You'll see, now remember, this came out of the box. This is a template that Framemaker provided for me with all of this content inside of it. I've typed nothing. I haven't even put anybody's name in here yet. This is a 3D diagram in U3D format. And if we were to look here at this text, you'll see it's got some kind of little markers down here. These are hypertext markers, and these were created by creating links from the text to parts of the graphics. It's a very easy thing to do. If we had more time, we'd do it. You also, by the way, can actually make a parts list. I could actually say that I would like to create a hypertext graphic link part list to all the parts in this propeller, and it will create a table that in your PDF will then help you link and make the propeller do interesting things, which we'll see in a moment. Below that, just to give you an example of what else you can do, there are several video formats that you can also put into Framemaker as well. And I'm just going to do one more thing down here. I'm very quickly going to make a quick change to this table. Framemaker's got table formats. With or without XML, you can automatically change the style. It would be based on your elements and your DTD and what's called the element definition document if we're in regular Framemaker. And what I'd like to do in here real quickly is just maybe add an equation. So we'll just go up here to MathML, make a MathML equation. I'm on a trial. It's going to go ahead and do it for me. Moments later, it pops up, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick something in here. And I'm going to create something that is undoubtedly illegal, but I don't care. Let's just do it anyway. Actually, how about that? There we go. Okay, so even though that isn't really terrific, hey, it's an equation. It got in there anyway, didn't it? Okay, and finally, you can also create QR codes, or you can also import graphics. And I'm very swiftly going to import a graphic. The reason I'm doing this is because in a moment when I publish this, we're going to have something interesting happen to the sizing of that graphic. I can see them already hitting 7 minutes, but I'm just going to keep going anyway. Going in here into miscellaneous, for every one of my demos, I use the only black and white photo I have. Happens to be my grandmother. I don't do this for sentimental purposes. It's just that she sizes real nicely in HTML. Little did she know that back in the 40s when this picture of her petting a deer in Yosemite occurred. Okay, so we've got, so all I've done so far is add an equation, a photograph, and finally up here at the top, the general description, output of Go Love. I'm going to put Adam's name in here. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and save this file, and I'm going to go ahead and save it into my my DCL seminar here, and I'm going to call this regular chapter, and I'll call it first because it's the first thing I did. Okay, this has now been saved. Now we're going to go ahead and publish this 2 different ways. First thing we can do to publish it is we're going to do a save as PDF. And so now you notice that there's 2 types of PDFs I can save to. One is I can save it as a PDF for review. And if I were to, something that I may not have time to do, if I were to say, save this as PDF and enable it for commenting in e-reader, that PDF could go on to SharePoint, into a shared drive. Multiple people could then make comments, annotations, and deletions to that one PDF file, and any of the editorial delineation in the PDF will import right directly back into Framemaker. You can do that in the XML files, or you can do it in the traditional Framemaker file. I'm going to go ahead and just do a regular save as PDF because I'm just going to default to the regular place. I'm just going to make it a standard size. I can use bookmarks if I want to, etc. And let's go ahead and set it. And moments later, we will have a PDF file. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I just want you to see some of the intelligence that can occur just within PDF. And this is pretty exciting because a lot of people think PDF is dying. It's not. Framemaker is fully equipped to handle all your needs without PDF, but PDF will probably be here as long as we have government and lawyers, because you do have to have something like a page and even line numbers to indicate where something might have been missing. PDF is done by now, so I'm going to go ahead and open up the file where I created it. So I'll go into the DCL. Whoops, went to the wrong one. I'm going to swiftly go into the DCL seminar. And here are the files that we're working with. You recall that I call it regular chapter first, and here is the PDF file. So let's just open it up. There it is. I'm not, and of course it's got the we've got all of our bookmarks which we can use. Another way that we can also transit around, remember that I said that we had cross-references. These, of course, are, marked as hyperlinks. I'm going to go ahead and close the bookmarks because they're kind of in my way. I don't really want to use them. And what I'd also like to do here is to make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to do it about 75% to give myself a little bit of room. Now you'll recall that I had a couple of diagrams in here. One of them was we had the rocket. Okay, so if I go ahead and click on this, video will work in PDF and it will also work in the online formats. Now this happens to be a old Space Shuttle clip probably off of Wikipedia, but this could be a simple silent movie that you want to save steps on. So instead of having 7 or 8 screen captures with progressive steps on how to load a paper tray or something like that, you can have a very simple video. What's more exciting though is this. Watch what happens if I choose crankcase. Okay, if I do that, I'm going to go ahead and move this off to the side over here where you can see a little bit better. If I choose crankcase, or I choose cylinder head, or I choose cam or cam housing, or more dramatic repeller, you notice that this is automatically shading the portion of the diagram that I'm selecting. This is based on those little links that I made. We also can go ahead and go to different views, like default, left, right, etc. In here, I can make it smaller if I wish. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the front view, the back view, or the bottom view, default view again, go ahead and do that. And what I want to do here is to, it is possible to manually manipulate this. The user can actually kind of do this if they wish to get it to the angle they want, and there we go. Final thing is let's actually show the animation. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so we can see it better. You'll notice if I pick individual parts, those will show as well. Let's go ahead and show the animation, and that will automatically go ahead and create a exploded diagram. Now, all of this information, these parts that have been linked, the animation, etc., all of that information came from the 3D diagram from the CAD system. We didn't do anything in Framemaker to make that happen. So as you can see, this is all pretty useful. And then, of course, we'll see further down here the change where I put my grandmother's face in, etc. Let me close that down. Now, final thing, this will stick me up to about 10 minutes instead of the 7 I promised you, but it won't take long. I'm happy with this. Let's go ahead and publish to one of our 5 online formats. We can go to HTML5. I could go to Kindle Mobi, I could go out to WebHelp. I'm going to go ahead and publish this to HTML5. And my default browser happens to be Chrome. It'll work with Internet Explorer, Firefox, or Chrome. Just a word of caution, I have noticed that some of the video functions seem to work a little bit better in Chrome than in Firefox. This might just be me, and it might have to do with the plugins that I have loaded, but use whichever you wish. It doesn't take long, and once it's done, it will prompt me would I like to see a preview. Okay, so yes, I would. And the nice thing about the preview is you can actually kind of get a sense of what this is going to look like either on a laptop, a tablet, or an iPhone. Now, if I were to click on History of Flight, this drops me down. Now, I don't have all that intelligence in the PDF because it doesn't work in HTML. However, if we go down here, the rocket works. We can go ahead and click on this to play the video. And as that rocket's taking off, as you can see, it's starting to do it. Here you'll see is the place where I had imported my grandmother. Now, I'm going to go ahead and very slowly resize this. Now, notice all the navigation stuff over here on the left-hand side. Watch closely and watch what happens as we get down to tablet size. As we get about down to tablet size, which I'm in right now, you'll see that our navigation tools have moved over here. But more importantly, I'm going to go ahead and resize this. It's about the size of a smartphone. And as we do this, move it down here so we can see my grandma. I want you to closely look at the table and the graphics and notice that as we resize this, which I'm doing right now, there we go with some effort. Anyway, when you resize this on a normal day, maybe not today, maybe on a normal day, this will actually, I know why it's doing this. I put this equation in here which won't shrink. If I had put my grandmother into a different cell, you would actually see the table get smaller, and you would also see the graphic get smaller. So your tables and your graphics will scale, quite successfully. And this is really nice if you happen to have rather wide assets, something that's maybe kind of like a spreadsheet or something like that. Now, earlier I had mentioned, and this is a tool that can be, going back to Framemaker, a tool that can be used both in the regular mode and also in the structured mode. Just take one last quick look at it, is I talked about conditional text. One of the reasons you might use conditional text, let's just move down here for a moment, is I may be getting ready to publish out to video like we were just looking at, to a tablet, and maybe I don't want this this diagram in here. I'm going to replace it with a video instead. So I can take a look out here and see that this actually has author notes and output 3D as the categories assigned to it. So I could actually decide that I want to change this so that output 3, excuse me, did the wrong one. I'm going to decide that I want to hide output 3D and author notes. And watch what happens as I apply this. As I do, that information disappears, and actually you can see this better if I go down to maybe 25%. You'll see the document's gotten quite a bit smaller. And let's go ahead and reverse that, and let's go ahead and hide, I'm going to go ahead and hide my output video instead. And as I do that, you'll see that the rocket's going to disappear. There we go, and we'll have some other information show instead. So that's just a method that can be used to control versioning. You can have different versions of the document by easily making those changes. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to stop that part of the demo, and I think I'm ready to swiftly move on to my next slide. I just pause for one moment, go to my other tool so I can see it. So let's go back here into the slides, and we'll bring them back up. Here they are. And I'll just have them fill the screen for you. Just want to take a moment. There we go. Okay, so we just did this quick structure. We did a quick regular mode of Framemaker, kind of to show you that everything you need is out of the box. Now, as we're getting ready here to move into XML, I want to comment on something. Everything that you saw me do, all the fancy stuff with colors turning on and having paragraphs jump out into the margin and stuff like that, all of those formatting choices are available for you when you're working with DITA or with XML. So even if you're going to publish an XML, which I'm going to do next, you can still use that publish function with full Framemaker, full Framemaker license, to go out to HTML5. And this is what we're indicating down here, where you see the little QR code placed on top of a poster of a video. This is over here, the image that's on the, let me open up my thing for a moment there. Okay. And the reason I've done that is because there's going to be times that you might know that you're distributing a version of the document that's going to someone who only has paper, not PDF for whatever reason. Who knows why, or maybe they're going to print it out. So if you want to, you can actually have a little poster of the video that has a QR code on it, so somebody can use a smartphone, an iPad, or some other device, and that will pick up the QR code and take them out to the URL where you have the interactive media playing for them. Okay. Moving on along to the next slide, if I have it selected. There we go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quick demo of Framemaker for XML. And some of the things we're going to explore is that when you're working with XML in Framemaker, and that's native XML, there's no save as, there's no filtering. Years ago, Framemaker, you actually worked with a Framemaker format that had structure embedded in it, and then you actually had to go through sort of a save as process to achieve XML. That's no longer necessary. It is possible to do that old workflow, but it's not a requirement. You're going to see what we call automatic formatting. This is something I think any of our XML competitors can do, but if you have nested lists and whatnot, the rules that govern the formatting of the XML behind the scenes will actually make your elements behave differently. Different views. And also there's something known as a quick element toolbar, which I kind of shot off over here to the side. So the quick element toolbar is off over here where, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not. I think I can do this. Yes, I can. I can draw a big fat arrow. I can try to anyway. That's the quick element toolbar. When I talked about the banner text, that's over here. You're going to see that in a moment. That's where the text will turn yellow for you. And you do have the different views, and one that expert users will want to use, or people who are doing development or testing, is this. I actually do want to go over here and turn the drawing tools off, so I want to go back to normal mode. There we go. So over here in the lower right-hand corner, this is a preview of what you're going to see in a moment, which is the ability to actually see the XML in its regular code mode, and we can actually insert it there as well. So one of the things that we're going to be emphasizing as we go back into Framemaker is how much you can do if you don't know anything at all about XML. Let's pretend for a moment that this is flu season and several people are out sick, or God forbid the measles or who knows what, and maybe your staff of 7 has been reduced to 2 people and you've got some important work that you need to grind out. So you may have times, I'm going to go ahead and close this in case you need to go back to it, you may have times that you simply need to bring somebody else up to speed in about an hour and a half. You've got 90 minutes to train somebody and then have them work all day creating things. So one of the things I'm going to do is go ahead and, rather than open up a file, earlier you saw me open up an existing template. Under the DITA menu, we can create various DITA constructs. We can make map, book map, we can do DITA map or whatever, and I can also create a topic. A topic is kind of the basic building block for most of your DITA or XML projects. Now, as I do this, because I'm working with full Framemaker, you'll see that I have all of these worthless things over here, like paragraph catalogs and stuff that I really don't want and I really don't need. I could even view things like a master page, and there's a format menu here. Now, it's possible for you to configure these menus. If you're going to only work in XML mode and you need full Framemaker to create some of your styles, you can actually have these turned off so that somebody would not see these choices if you don't want them to use them. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come down here and show you that there is a built-in workspace that will show up with Framemaker. And I can kill this menu. And this built-in workspace will actually open up a structure view. It will show you wherever you are. Whichever element you select is turning gray. And as you click underneath here, like if I clicked underneath the paragraph, I could actually go into my element catalog. And the element catalog will give me all the things that I could create. So for instance, I might decide that I want to create an ordered list. And as I do that, that drops the ordered list, the list item, and the paragraph. And it's automatically giving me that information for free, and over here we can see the text. However, I'd like to show you an easier way to do this, because this can be done in a simpler fashion. So what I'm going to do is change this to my own XML Maxwell workspace that I use, because this is how I'm comfortable with working with the product, so I've just designated it such so I can use it this way. And I'm very quickly going to make some changes to it. First of all, I'm going to save this file, and I'm going to go ahead and save it into our infamous DCL webinar. And I'm just going to call this first topic. You don't have to type in all caps. I just do that because it's easier for my eyes to see if I'm doing a live demo. Make it a little bigger. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little text here. I'll just say how to get started. You can see a little bit of typing going on over here, and I'll just put in some propaganda. This is a banner text. Click on top of it. You can do it too. By the way, the gray background is optional. You don't have to have that. And also, whatever you see in here, like author, where it says enter author name, that's also customizable. In the XML files, or I'm sorry, in the application files we have, which are fully editable, that drive this process, instead of entering author name, you could have whatever your company's name for that is, or it could say enter academic citation or ISBN number or something like that. Just going to add a little bit of text here. Here is my first real paragraph. Okay, now let's say that you have to break somebody into working with this, and you don't want to have all this stuff over here because you think they're going to freak out when they see a table or something. Okay, there's a different way to use Framemaker. In my workspace, which I have turned on right now, I have what's called the Quick Element Toolbar. And the Quick Element Toolbar will let me know what I can create in certain places. So like it'll gray out as things are not possible. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on these tags. And the reason I'm turning the tags on is so I can actually get an appropriate location to insert something. I know that if a paragraph's over with, if I'm at the end of a paragraph, I could teach somebody in 30 seconds that they could now create a numbered list. Okay, I just did what I did earlier by running over to that element catalog and choosing OL for ordered list. You can see that it dropped in there. I'm very quickly going to make this, one prefix. That's what was there. Now, instead of going and clicking out here, to create another one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the cursor and hit the cursor. So I'm at the end of list item, and if I simply hit return, I'm going to say this is to prefix. That's just indicating that we had a number there. Cursor, cursor, return. This is the third prefix. And cursor, cursor, return, and this is the fourth prefix. Now, the reason I'm putting these numbers in here is in a moment you're going to see these change. Now, I'm going to go here after, I'd like to go here after the paragraph, after number 3. And if I insert my cursor there, hopefully you can see a flashing cursor. Once again, if we visit our Quick Element Toolbar up here, we'll see that there's a little icon that says Ordered List. So I can put an ordered list inside of an ordered list. Now, I've actually got the same element name here. This is called ordered list, and this is called ordered list. This is the way that XML works. But you'll see now that it's actually dropping a alpha prefix instead of a numeric prefix. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a prefix. I'll just do 3 of them. Return, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a B prefix, which we're of course going to see change in a moment. Cursor, cursor, return, and finally I'm going to go ahead and put a C prefix. Okay, now if I were to turn off this, wow, isn't that exciting? It's really pretty. I could print this out, and I'm working right now what's called page view. Page view is I can see what things look like. In a moment, I'm going to show you there's two other ways to view this content. Now, I would temporarily turn my tags on if it's flu season and I'm the person who's only had 45 minutes of training, because somebody has taught me that if I select a list item, I can change its location within the list, or I could even put it outside of the list. So if I were to move this up here, like there, ta-da, notice that the C item is where it used to, here it says B, but that used to be C. And let's do something more dramatic. What if I decided to move it up here? So perhaps right here where it would become the second item in the main list. Ta-da, it did just that. So here you can see a pretty big change, because when I first typed this in, it was down here. This used to be item C. It's now become item 2. And of course, if we go ahead and turn off our tags, it's a little more evident. So that's what it's like working with the Quick Element toolbar and just using some simple tags to kind of guide you along. Furthermore, other things that I could do as well, perhaps I may want to do it right here, for instance. I could go here, I believe. Let's say that I wanted to create a table in here real quick, and I'm just going to go ahead and insert that. There it is, a simple table, and we'll make it 1, 2. Terrific. Okay, now if I go ahead and turn off these tags and we go back and revisit the structure toolbar, which we haven't looked at for a while, here you'll see that a lot of structures have been created. We've got those nested lists. You remember that I put an ordered list within an ordered list. And also within the ordered list, we actually have a table. And you can clean this up a little bit, like you can decide to, you can decide to collapse all the rows, so it's easier to see if you want to. And it's, the rows can actually be moved as well. So if I went in here and put first, I could actually take one row and I could move it up here so it's above the other one. So it's very easy. You can actually do similar things with other portions of it as well. Okay, now before I go any further, what I want to show you is I mentioned that we have three different ways actually to view this content. I am going to go ahead and save this. And what I'd also like to point out real quickly, because this is still news to some people, so I know that some people are aware of this, but I have to kind of share it for anybody who's never seen this before, that if we go in here, remember I saved this file, look at what it is. It says first topic XML. And if I decide to open up a text editor, perhaps this one here, and just get out of there real quick, let's see what happens if I go ahead and drag this down in here. There it is. First of all, you can see that that is indeed real XML. One thing also that's new and different to Framemaker now is this. If we looked this area up in here, up at the top, Framemaker used to have some kind of proprietary code. It was commented out and it was gray. That was there until a couple of releases ago. But here you can see that everything that's required is in here in this mode. Now, fortunately, we can actually, there is such a mode right in Framemaker itself. You can actually go to what's called XML code view. Turn it on over here, make it a little larger so we can really see it. And here you can see here's all the text that we had added earlier. You'll recall that when we did these list items, amongst other things, we also had paragraphs added in here. So if I wanted to have a second paragraph within my list item, I could simply type angle bracket P. And as I start to do this, you'll see that there's a rolling list here where I could go ahead and choose something, or I could just close it off. And as soon as I do that, notice that the closing, let's try to make it bigger so you can see it. Notice that the closing tag has been dropped in for me. Okay. Now, one of the things you also can do is you can say audience, which is an attribute, equals DCL. So you can have attributes in your elements that can be used for filtering purposes, for when you print, and it can act very much like conditional text. I'm just going to type, this is an extra paragraph. Okay, let's go back to our page view and see what happened. Okay, and if I did it properly, there it is. I didn't get an error message. And we'll also see that this will, of course, show up over here. There's that paragraph I added. Now, I mentioned that there's three modes. So you've seen the code view and you've seen the page view. The second mode, which is kind of the way most other XML editors work, is what's called author view. And basically in author view, you have minimal formatting. You don't have any page breaks. You can't see where your page header footer is. You don't know exactly where your line breaks are. In other words, if I kept typing this paragraph, it'll go all the way out to the end, and the wrap is just sort of arbitrary. So that's for people who want to concentrate on the content and they don't know what it's going to look like. However, the reason that we have the page view, which we used to be criticized for, is PDF does still exist and so does paper. There are people who have to publish XML and it has to go to the government, and if it's a pharmaceutical FDA submission, for instance, it has to be submitted often in PDF, and you really need to know what page you're on. By the way, under View, there's an optional choice, with or without XML, either one. You can optionally turn on line numbers. A lot of people do this only for their proof purposes. If they're going to go ahead and make changes to the document, this would let them know that something's on line 7. But sometimes people want to actually publish this out, for legal purposes. So if there was a lawsuit, you could prove that line 7 really did have such and such on it. Just go ahead and turn that off. And by the way, that's completely configurable. You can change what they look like, etc. Okay, so we've done that. That was just kind of a quick overview. Now there is one other feature that's really quite remarkable, and to do this I have to kind of shut everything down and swiftly go ahead and locate what I'm looking for. So I think it's, I have a little, I'm going to find it here in a moment. I have a special, here we go to this transfer. I just happen to have a special file that I use as well. It's called Smart Paste. In here it is unstructured Word and Excel. Okay. Now the reason I'm opening this up, I'm going to open up a document. I could, if I had more time, I could make up a Word document from scratch, but I don't have more time. So I'm going to open up a Word doc. Actually, that's not the one I want, so I'll get rid of it. I want one that has some pictures in it. Here it is. I've got a document called Elephant. This is one that I kind of touched up a little bit, and let's go back to Framemaker as well. There we go. Okay, so if we go back here into the, right back here, maybe into the structure view, like right about here, we could decide that we wanted to insert some information that came from another program, perhaps from unstructured frame, or Microsoft Word, or Excel, or even from the web. And if I click in here, and if I open up the styles, you'll see that this is a heading 2, this is normal, this is a heading 2. Notice that the paragraphs inside of the table are normal. They don't have any kind of special style applied to them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to go ahead and select this text. I'm getting a combination of headlines and tables with graphics. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy. So I've just copied that to my clipboard. Now, hoping that I've inserted myself in the right place, and I believe I have, I'm going to go ahead and do a Smart Paste and see what happens. As I do the Smart Paste, now if I put it in the wrong spot, I'm going to get a broken line. I think I'm in the right spot. Yep, I am. Wrong spot. Did it again. Okay, let's put it in here. I'm going to go ahead and I have a propensity to do that. There we go. I got it in the right location. Now, I could have dragged the whole thing and gotten rid of the red lines that were showing me that I had broken structure. Now, here you'll see what's happened is inside the body, using appropriate sequential structure for a topic, I now have a section, and the sections follow a title, and I've got a paragraph that I created down here, and down here we have a table, and this table is the one, we'll go ahead over here where we can see it, and you'll see that the table has actually got figures in it because we created elephants, etc. Now, so here's an image, which happens to be one of our elephants. Okay, and several things have happened here. This has all been formatted very nice. I'm just going to briefly move that out of the way. You'll see that it looks, we can see all the content that we recognize from the Word document. But a real special thing happened here, and this is really cool. It's almost like something DCL might do to support one of their services. When we were in Microsoft Word, each one of these graphics was embedded in the Word file. And I used to be in the translation industry, and we did all sorts of voodoo to extract these graphics out of Word files when they were moving into XML or into Framemaker. So one thing that's really cool is just that simple Smart Paste that does this conversion. If I go here to what's called insets, you'll see that each one of these elephants has been, and I have to scroll down to see it because it's down here. You'll see that each one of these elephants has actually been converted into an external graphic. See what's got the little handles around it? And down here we can also see the path. Now, Framemaker's not psychic, so it has to create sort of a temp path or temporary path. But now that these graphics are here, I could move them into the appropriate location, perhaps on a CMS where I want to access these from, because you actually have built-in, you've got built-in compatibility with CMS, Connection Manager. We work out of the box with Documentum, Adobe Experience Manager, virtually any of them. There's also a CMS API available for free. So if you have your own content management system, you can very easily tie that into Framemaker so that people can check these in and check them out. You can have an audit trail of what you do. So one more time, taking a look at that structure view, we've got a lot of structure that wasn't here before. In fact, this entire table and a lot more. This was all just popped in for free simply from doing copy and paste. So the nice thing about the smart paste that I did a moment ago that I'm not going to do again because that would be illegal to do it right there. The really nice thing about the smart paste is that's a really great way to capture information from perhaps some of your engineers or some of your subject matter experts. Many people settle on Framemaker as an authoring solution because of this hybrid mode, because you can work in both regular and XML. Terrific that it does that. But it's there's always going to be somebody who's not going to use Framemaker. Now the final thing I'm going to do is save this file, and we have just enough time to touch on one more thing that I promised to show you. So I'm going to go over here where I can do that. There we go. And that is Framemaker XML Author. Now, before I go to Framemaker XML Author, let me point out I'm using full Framemaker. And because I'm using the full Framemaker license, one of the things that you can do, besides all this cool editing and everything that's going on here, is under the Format menu, you know, if I went up under, actually I'd have to get out of this workspace. If I went back to the regular authoring workspace and close that, you'll see that actually some, let me move this out of the way, there we go, get rid of it. Okay, I might have a crash. And by the way, folks, I was just to let you know, I have a good excuse. I had to reinstall my Java runtime environment about 5 minutes before this, so I'm going to have it cleverly reinstall my last session. There we go. And isn't that nice that it'll do that for you? Okay. Now, anyway, one of the things I want to point out is I've gone to the traditional authoring workspace. And as I do this, notice some menus reappear like format. You know, we really don't want people changing fonts and stuff like that. They could go to page layout stuff. Now, what will happen, folks, is because this is an XML file, if I went in here right now and applied a different master page and made this double column, it would work temporarily, but as soon as I save the file to XML, I would lose all that format override. And so this is why we have people work with a XML workspace like I have, because when we actually go into the regular structured, most of the formatting stuff will disappear. Now, what we're going to do is this. I'm going to go into Edit, and I'm going to show you how I can make I have a full Framemaker license, but what I want to do is make it emulate or behave like the less expensive product. It costs about 60% of the Framemaker license. Is called Framemaker XML Author. As soon as I do this, it prompts me that I have to close Framemaker and start it over again if I want to work with that. So I'm going to go ahead and start Framemaker. Here it comes. Okay, now that I've got Framemaker going, I've got all these things. And one of the things I created was called First Topic. That was that file that I pasted the elephants and everything into, and you see it opens up relatively seamlessly. Now, what I can also do too is there are various ways that you can display it. For instance, we can go over to Structure Tools, and I can bring my structure view back if I wish, and here we can see all that structure we did. Now, what's changed, because I'm working in the less expensive Framemaker XML Author, notice up here that there is no format menu. There isn't one. Also, for people familiar with Framemaker, notice under View, I don't have a choice to view my master pages. I can turn on the line numbers because that's something legal to do, you know, just in an XML environment. But I can't look at master pages. I can't look at reference pages. There's no way to change. I can't change it. If I go to authoring, there is an authoring mode here. But notice if I collapse this down, there's no catalogs. I don't have any paragraph catalogs, table catalogs, or object style catalogs. All I have is my element catalog, because that's the correct and proper way to work within XML. So Framemaker XML Author basically restricts you to what you can do in XML. Now, what would you do if you wanted to print? Okay, well, first of all, I could take this document, and let's say that I decided I wanted to save it as PDF. You know, I'm really enamored with this, so I'm going to go ahead and save it as PDF and see what I can do. Now, I'm not doing anything fancy, particularly I'm just going to go ahead and save it. I don't want high quality print, I'll just go to standard, go ahead and do this. Now the reason I'm saving to PDF, which might seem kind of obvious and like, what's the big deal? The reason is that when this product was first released, it was actually, we had kind of a limited PDF that was sort of grayed out and had a big watermark on it. And as you can see, it now creates real PDF. Everything is full view, so I can make decent PDF if I want to go ahead and publish it that way. Then you might ask yourself, well, gee, what if you want to publish out to that really cool thing I showed you earlier, you know, this HTML5? What if you want to do that? Well, the answer is I cannot do that with the less expensive product. When we cut 40% off the price, a few things disappear, and that's one of the menus that's gone. We don't have that publish menu here. So two things can be done. One is I could put this on a server, or I could share it with a team member who has one full Framemaker license so they can publish to any of those 5 formats. Or, excuse me, what you can also do is under DITA, you could say generate DITA open tool output. Generate DITA open toolkit output. Now, unfortunately, folks, I had to reinstall my Java runtime environment, and I don't have it completely hooked up, so right now I'm getting an error message. But normally this would just go through its little manipulations out of the box, and we go ahead and do it. So when you install Framemaker, if you do install, if you buy the less expensive product and you install Framemaker XML Author, all you have to do is install the DITA Open Toolkit, and you also have to install the latest Java runtime environment, and there are instructions on where you point to as far as that. And then this has got, you can create your own workspaces, as I have done here, where I can have the quick element toolbar and all of that. Now, I'd like to get out of there because we're running out of time. So let me go back to my preferences. One thing I wanted to show you is this. It is also possible to change the product interface to just traditional Framemaker. Okay? You might wonder, why would you do that? We'll find out in a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, go ahead and start Framemaker. Now this would be for cases where perhaps you have somebody who's going to use the product temporarily, and I'll do that test chapter which I opened earlier. Now what you'll notice here is, notice we don't have any workspaces for XML. There's nothing there. And also if you look closely, notice that there's no DITA. We don't have an XML menu. There's no structure menu. So this is for people who just want to use the product in the traditional way, using catalogs and doing that. And everything that I did in the beginning of that demo, because it happened to be unstructured, you could do it with this user interface. Since there may be questions about XML, I would imagine I'm going to swiftly change back to the structured Framemaker user interface. You can see how swiftly you can do it. Moments later, we'll go ahead and close it out, and then I'll just restart Framemaker. I'm just using kind of an average, normal, low-priced Dell desktop computer here, but this all works fine on laptops as well. So what I'd like to do next is to go back to my slides so I can go ahead and complete this and perhaps ask questions, and at that point I'll be able to look at them. So we're in our screen share mode here. So we just took a quick peek at Framemaker XML Author, and as I mentioned, it's a less expensive tool dedicated to XML only. Any of the menus involving design and format are gone, and just so you have something to look at here, this over here on the I think I can use the drawing tools again. Here we go. Yeah, actually just spotlight view. Over here you can see this is Framemaker, and see that Framemaker gives you, these extra things. If I wanted to view it, have other things. And when you're in Framemaker XML Author, those things do not exist. Okay, so I'm going to go here and go back to the normal mode. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, we did a brief demo of that. You saw that just moments ago. Okay, now, I don't know if these are going to work for you or not in the recording. They may, I hope. If you want to try it, you should be able to move your cursor on top of any one of these, and it will actually carry you out to these specific resources. So as a quick example, I'll take you to the Framemaker 12 Adobe TV channel, which has got a whole bunch of videos. And as I click on this, it's going to ask, do I really want to go there? Yes, I do. And this is going to open up my Chrome browser. And here you can see that we've got dozens and dozens of videos. This is not the only channel that we have. If you look closely, you'll see that these videos are like 2 to 3 minutes long. They're quite brief. One of them's like how to add footer rows to tables or something like that. Go ahead and close that down. So hopefully you'll be able to click on these, which will take you where you want to go. These last two, which I'm going to show down here, will appear on the last slide, and that's a link that will take you to on-demand seminars and upcoming seminars as well. Move on to the next slide. I think I have to go back to the normal mode to do that. There we go. Wait, the next slide. These are some relevant pre-recorded webinars that I chose that I think you'd find particularly interesting because they're kind of on the advanced side, but they're related to what we covered today. We recently, a few months ago, had a session with Bernard Ashwandon of Publish Smarter. He's the incoming STC president this coming June in Columbus, Ohio. He did an excellent series on Framemaker, and one of them was multi-channel publishing of DITA with the right appearance, and he actually showed how to use the DITA Open Toolkit. We had another one that was used, I believe this was Rick Quattro, if I recall. It's called Walking the Tree in XML, and Framemaker comes with Extend Script out of the box. Extend Script is kind of a script language that runs across all Adobe products, and he showed how you could actually create some simple scripts. They're actually downloadable, from the webinar to do some unusual things that don't quite work out of the box. We had another one here about Bernard Oshwanden did another one last year on how to convert your unstructured Framemaker to structure. So he goes through all the steps on that. This is kind of the big kahuna, the next to the last one is called The Hitchhiker's Guide to XML Authoring. Anybody in the Framemaker world is probably familiar with Chris Despopoulos. He sometimes goes by his initials CUD, C-U-D, and he created the famous CUD span utilities. He splits his time between Spain and New York. I worked with Chris over 20 years ago at Frame Technology. And then we had Autumn Kuhler of Design Science covered MathML as XML. Because Framemaker actually comes with a 30-day trial of MathML, and then I believe you can purchase it for a modest fee. That will work in the traditional mode of Framemaker or in XML. You can do it in either one. Finally, moving on, we've actually created a microsite for people who are specifically interested in XML for Framemaker. Now we have another microsite I neglected to put in here, and I'll just spell it out for you. It's called Do You Write Right, and that's D-O, letter U, W-R-I-T-E, R-I-G-H-T. So if you just type that in doyourwriteright.com, it will take you to a different looking website that covers regular traditional Framemaker from the perspective of somebody who knows Microsoft Word. What's really nice about this microsite, there's a lot of information clipped off in the screen capture down below, but it actually gives you both the webinar and the white paper for that Hitchhiker's Guide to Framemaker, which you'll find quite useful. Finally, I'd like to close here with my contact information, which I'll try to hit the spotlight on. Blogs, you can follow me or Adobe TechCom on Twitter. Here's my email, and if you look closely, you'll see there's 2 N's in Hoffman and there's 1 N in the email. That just has to do with some odd protocol of our Adobe email. If anybody wants to get on my mailing list where I'm just mentioning upcoming events, usually about twice a month, I'll just mention what we're doing for the next 2 weeks. If you click on this link right here, that will actually launch a webmail email to me, and it will just say mail list in the subject line. And we have our others down here. This last link down here is our upcoming e-seminars, which they're, of course, centric around our products. I do want to mention that about 25% of our e-seminars are thought leader vision only. We have usually we have a series of webinars each year with Ray Galone and Neus Lorenzo of the Institute in Barcelona, and they don't even mention our products. They really just talk about what's happening with wearable technology, etc. And you can also see our previously recorded webinars down here. I think with that, I'll go ahead and I don't know if I need to stop sharing my screen, but Adam, perhaps you may want to make a comment, or you can let me know if we have questions.
Actually, thank you, Max. That's a very informative webinar indeed, and we do have several questions, so let me read them off to you.
Okay.
And I already sent them to your chat function in case you want to read them as well. And the first one is, the HTML publishing feature seems to generate pre-themed CSS mini websites. Is it possible to export HTML content for use in publishing content managing systems like WordPress or Drupal that have their own style sheets and navigations?
I think the answer might be yes and no. First of all, what I would say is this: to my knowledge, I don't think that feature works with. I don't think it currently works with WordPress out of the box. You know, you might have to do some modification to it. However, I did want to say this: when you saw me publish to what looked like a HTML5 website, that was a pre-configured set of pre-configured set of styles that just comes out of the box. You can modify that. In fact, there's 2 different themes you can choose from, and you can also go in and either remap your elements or your paragraphs, and you can also decide where pagination splits occur. So you can decide that both your second and third level heads or equivalent titles in your elements would make breaks in terms of the topic. So what I would recommend, if that's something that you're interested in, send an email to the email that you see there, and I will forward it to our product managers, but I can also give you the link to our Adobe wish list. Sure, and go ahead with the next question.
Sure. The next question is it possible to convert a traditional unstructured frame document into a structured frame document without using copy and paste? Hey, Max, I wasn't sure if you heard that.
I'm sorry. You know what? I was on mute. I apologize. I have a mirror where I can normally see the red LED that hangs way too low on my cord. Let me start over again. The answer is absolutely. You can convert documents without copy and paste. Let me back up my slides if I can. Let me get out of this pointer thing here. I'll just back up. I'm going to back up the slides here to where I talked about these webinars. The one that says Bernard Session 1, Easy Steps to Convert, that actually goes through the traditional method of converting unstructured Framemaker to structure, and it does not involve copy and paste. Actually, there's a step where the first step is you actually say generate a conversion table, and it will take whatever paragraph styles you happen to have in unstructured Framemaker, and it will create elements and do a pretty good job of mapping it. And then it's an iterative process. You can actually make a lot of progress in 3 or 4 hours in terms of creating a conversion table that might work for several weeks without modification. There also, if you have a high volume, some people have got millions of pages of unstructured Framemaker. There's a lot of people like DCL, and there's some other partners out there as well who have methods of doing sort of a faster batch conversion to XML if that's what you wish. But the copy and paste that you saw was just a simple way but you could actually copy out of Wikipedia and convert it into DITA. That's just sort of an ad hoc way to get quick content in there. Sure, next question.
Sure. Actually, at this time, that was all the questions, Max. So definitely thank you for your time. This has been a great webinar.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Just want to let everyone know that this webinar will be available in the webinar archive section of our website, which is located at www.dclabs.com. Our next scheduled webinar will be Wednesday, March 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, titled Managing Documentation Projects in Nearly Any Environment. That's being presented by Sharon Burton, a content strategy consultant. Thank you, everyone. This does conclude today's broadcast, and thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.